everybody's replaceable. Like everybody, doesn't matter where you're at. Perfection is kind of the enemy of good. Like most of the buyers are actually lurkers. I can't just run LinkedIn ads and hope that it's just going to work all by itself.
The Next Gen Sales Leaders Podcast. Coffees for Closers.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Next Gen Sales Leader Podcast. My name is Benjamin Reed. I'm here with JD Garcia. He is the head of growth for Impactable.com. Welcome to the podcast.
Glad to be here, Ben.
So I know we just talked about work-life balance, and we were talking about how, you have 6 kids. Is that what's the case?
6 kids, and they're not cheaper by the dozen. That is a lie. Anyone that said that doesn't know what it's like to have a bunch of kids.
So I was literally at an event yesterday. I'm going through a bunch of different personal coaching, leadership coaching, and one of the things is called the Mankind Project, which I highly recommend to anybody looking for personal development. But my big thing yesterday, I do a men's group, and one of the things I was talking about is how I was late to the men's group by about 5 minutes. But for me, integrity is a big deal, and being 5 minutes late isn't acceptable. And so and my breakthrough in that group was how I prioritize work over everything, and I sacrifice personal relationships. So I liked what you just said about what you're doing for your wife. Would you mind sharing it again?
Yeah. So anybody that works in a small business or startup knows how crazy it is. And having as many children as I have and as wonderful a wife as I do, it's real important to have her support. So part of what we've agreed to is I have my mornings. So gym is it's my religious, it's part of my religious, my ritual. I have to do this. It's gym, sauna, shower, work. And then on the dot, 4:00 every day, rain or shine, hard stop, doesn't matter. I am out that door in my truck and driving, the 12-ish minutes home to my wife, who's been at home homeschooling, a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and then a 1.5-year-old who doesn't understand why mommy needs to spend time with these other ones reading. And that has been a good recipe for us for me to have what I need to do, the work that I do, and then for me to come in and let's say relieve or give mommy a little bit of time.
Yeah, that's awesome. I literally was saying to the men's group, I was like, I just, when I show up late, it reminds me of the fact that why am I sacrificing these smaller moments with my family, with my friends, with people that are in my personal life, like the men's group, for just an extra 5 minutes of work? And it's just not worth it. So that's really cool. I really do think as much as it's there's a hustle culture and there's a grind culture, Alex Hormozy is a huge work every day, 12 hours, 30 days in a row. See if you don't die.
He has no kids, by the way.
No kids. Exactly. Yeah. And I have been doing that, but it's at some point I'm just why? Why do we do this? And it made me even think about it last night, which is why do I work so much? And the only answer I could come up with ultimately was I have nothing better to do. I know that sounds horrible, but I'm what do I do? I don't have kids yet. All my friends live out of state. I'd have to travel to visit them. But I have this really intense mission to grow my businesses and grow the personal brand. But at the end of the day, I'm it's kind of sad, man. It's I wish I had more things to do,
But this is what gives you passion. I mean, honestly, anything else that you did, as long as you were getting fulfillment from it. I think as men too, because there's the thing that when people retire, especially men retire, health declines, everything, because they don't have this purpose. I don't ever actually plan on retiring because I always want to do something where I feel like I'm contributing and I'm being productive. So even this, people ask me too, whenever we have a new hire or you're in a situation where you meet new people and they're like, oh, tell me about yourself. And I'm like, well, I work out, I work, and then I raise my kids. That's it. Yesterday was gymnastics. It was a pep rally for my oldest son because he just started football. And then it was Cub Scouts. And then it was all that. And then it's come home, do the chores. And then it's lay in bed and cry. I'm tired, because it's all I'm going to rinse and repeat. But I get fulfillment from these things. So even for you, if you work, you're dedicated to this, you're growing your businesses, but if that's what gives you fulfillment and you're happy, doing it, but if you're questioning yourself, why am I neglecting all these people that I love? in my life for like, a few extra bucks or like for this like next whatever thing, then yeah, that's something you should probably listen to.
Yeah, for sure. There's a great quote. I think it was a Russell Brunson quote where he said something like, the definition of success is one achievement. So achieving things, getting, money and accolades and accomplishments like book launches and, hitting revenue milestones, etc. But then there's this other side of success, which is fulfillment. And then Tony Robbins went on to say, like, I think success or achievement without fulfillment is like, it's like something like the worst case outcome. And that's
Mm,
where people look back on their life and they go, why did I do all that? I wasn't fulfilled. And then there's a question of like, well, what is fulfillment? Like, what does that even mean? And I really like the quote of where it's like, fulfillment is the way that you feel about yourself when you are by yourself, looking at yourself in the mirror and you're reflecting on who you are as a person.
yeah.
And do you say good things about yourself? Do you have worthiness issues? Do you actually believe you are worth something and respectable in your own mind? And so I think that's like ultimately my goal for my businesses. We actually have something called our heart, which is our mission statement, our visions, our principle. But the purpose of the businesses is very simple, which is we're here to basically allow all people related to the company to grow. It's a platform for growth. It's employees, people that are clients, myself, my business partners. It's like if it makes no money, it's like literally not profitable, but it's sustainable and it helps everyone personally grow, I will still consider it a win. Because at the end of the day, it's like, what are we ultimately doing in life? We're
Yeah.
developing into better human beings, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I've kind of along this vein, but like a little bit different. So before I got into this world, I was in the corporate world. I worked at Spectrum, Time Warner Cable, and it was like the first job that I actually like stuck to for like many years. Before that, I kind of bounced around like timeshare, medical sales, Blockbuster, Hollywood Video, dating myself here a bit. But like I stayed at Spectrum for a while, and I was there for 5 years. I started in the residential side. I became a trainer, trained the news people. I love teaching people. I love training. I love development. I love helping people like hit these things that they didn't know that they could do. That was very like rewarding for me, fulfilling to me. Going back to like your point about like the development of people, like there's something about that that just makes you feel so good about helping someone else take these steps. I ended up in the business class wing, and I made the most amount of money that I had ever made, which to me was a lot of money. But I did so well there, and it was like after I got back from Christmas break, I think it was like December 27th, they pulled me in, HR. I know the drill because I had to do this for other people when I was the trainer. They bring me in, they let me go. I, didn't tell someone they weren't going to be able to keep their number when they were transferring from one city to another, whatever reason they gave. But they got bought out, and a lot of the people that had been there for a while were just starting to get let go. I never thought it would happen to me because I bring a lot of revenue to the company. I've been here. People like me, blah, 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 blah. Everybody's replaceable. Like everybody, doesn't matter where you're at. Everybody is replaceable. No one's actually, kind of safe. So like that really taught me a really important lesson about just developing like myself and doing what is best for me, because I always like would try to break my back for the company. And like, there's a positive version of that for even being the employer, because I still bring that mindset and kind of philosophy here. It's like everybody here that works here or has worked for me or works for me now, like I know that they're likely not going to retire from here. They're going to go and do something else. Like they're going to. And when they do, I want it to be a step up from them. And I want this to be part of their journey. And that's okay. Like they should grow. They should. And this has happened where I've had people go and they get better jobs after having worked for me. And it like breaks my heart to see them go. And I'm also really happy for them that they were able to grow and develop and go and do something else. So I think this like mindset that you're talking about, like part of your heart, that's kind of core of your business. Like I think I know personally people are really drawn to that. It is very refreshing to hear, not from like a platitude, like we're family at the company, but like from a deep like meaning, like, hey, you should come here, you should get better, and you're going to go on to do other things. Like this is part of your journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do think like there's an altruistic kind of like, I truly believe that's good for people. And I have like a general belief that it's a good way to live, that if we can all leave the people that we touch, and by touch, I mean like encounter, engage with,
Yeah.
whatever in life, in a little bit better place than we found them. It doesn't have to be crazy, but if there's just like a net positive exchange, then that's a good way to live. I would say also, like, getting into the more tactical side of the business, like, I think it's also good business, because the reality is like, there's a great, the great Charlie Munger quote of like, show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome. And the reality is like, human beings, human nature is self-wired to be obviously a little selfish, and to be, to a degree, self-preserving and, self-focused. It's just who we are. It's okay.
Yeah.
But that means that aligning incentives and aligning values is like so absolutely critical to assure that we collectively as a group of people, whether it's, your Boy Scouts out in the woods, or whether you're a team, or a football team on the playing field, or an actual team in business, is to make sure you're aligned and make sure that everyone is well compensated. And compensation doesn't mean money necessarily. It could be accolades. It could be just respect. It could just be camaraderie. It could be whatever it is. There's a great book. I think I have it. I don't know where it is on my library, but it's called Drive, and it's a book about. You have it?
Yeah, I have it right here. Yes.
There you go. There you go. All right, so I got it too. And so the whole point of the book is, well, obviously there's some more motivation that comes beyond just financial gain. There's some intrinsic motivation, something that's pushing people to do good. And I have found the people that absolutely crush at life are people that are just like deeply geeked out and curious about whatever the hell they're working on. And so they're just like I'll hire somebody and they're making kind of mid-level salary, but they'll just come and be like, dude, check this cool thing I just did, And it's like, why does that guy care so much? It's like, it's because it's not about me. It's not about my company. It's not about my brand. It's not because he ultimately loves me, which is, I wish that was the case, but that's not the case. It's because he just loves whatever the heck he's working on. And so I think that that's an important thing to just recognize as a leader, as a person, as a man, is that people just love being creative. They love creating shit. They love learning. They love doing. And if you can just give them an environment in which to do that, it's like, that's really where the holy grail is.
Yeah, that that environment, the freedom to do that, and like the encouragement to do that. So something fun we do is like every week we meet. We have like a little bit of a book club. The book we're reading right now is Be the Unicorn.
Oh, that's cool.
Don't know if you have read this one. Before that, we read Atomic Habits. Before that, we read Extreme Ownership. But we'll do like a little bit of a weekly book club. So I'll buy the books for everybody. We get together and we'll talk through a chapter. And a lot of times it's not even necessarily about work. Like, it's just life. Like, it's just being better in life. And like, there's this, at least like from my experience, there's like kind of like work-life balance, or like there's work and then there's like life. But like, that's not how life works. It's life, and like work and your personal and all of this stuff is kind of like, it impacts one another. So like the books and things that we read, some of them are related to work, but a lot of it's just like human nature and like how to become better as humans. Because if you're a better husband, if you're a better father, if you're a better leader, if you're a better church member, whatever it is, right, that's going to bleed into these other areas of your other life. And like, selfishly for me, because you're right, like, people are selfish. Like, I do these things because it makes me feel good, and that's selfish. They just happen to be good for other people, so it aligns. And it also happens to be good for business, which is also a plus. But it's not purely like, I'm not like a saint or just like purely thinking of other people. Like, there's a benefit to me. It just happens to align with the benefits to others too.
This is a break in the podcast to bring you our sponsor, RevOps.com. That is REVYOPS.com, the #1 GTM data management platform for your GTM and revenue operations data on planet Earth. If you are using the modern stack of Clay and Instantly and Email Bison and RB2B and Trigify and all these various tools scattered across the wind, we unify all that data all into one place so you don't have any duplicates, a unified view of every single contact so you can see all the data and all the daily activities across all the platforms all in one place. It will allow you and your team to move faster, to get better attribution across the entire funnel, and to make a heck of a lot more money. Go to RevOps.com, check out how you can get started today with me on a call where we'll learn about your data management problems and how we can get you guys to the next level of growth. See you guys at RevOps.com. Go there now. It will be in the show notes as well down below. Let's get back to the podcast.
So you were just sharing a book. What was the book again? It was Unicorn?
Yeah, Be the Unicorn, 12 data-driven habits that separate the best leaders from the rest. So there's just a few things on here that we just started this book, but one of them is just like speed, like quickness. So like me, I can be a little bit of a perfectionist at times. Like I just want things to be spelled like I am Grammarly, and I'm like, oh, Grammarly gets a little crazy sometimes with what it's suggesting. I'm like, don't change the meaning of what I'm trying to say here. But like perfection is kind of the enemy of good. And then especially in this world where you're trying to move quickly, get data quickly, one of the things that really helps you is just being able to like move fast. So like these kind of lessons that we take, the people that are part of the book club are actually different teams. So like for me here, I run the sales team. I just started running the go-to-market engine for us probably about a month and a half ago. I took that over. But I run the sales team here, but we also have a few of the account managers, the account services team that come in. So it's like a cross-departmental kind of, book club. And so the lessons that we talk about and the things we talk about, it's not like it's the same for everybody that's going to be applied to the role. It's different, which is also good because we kind of get to hear different perspectives, from the group.
Yeah, 100%. I'm curious because data-driven caught my eye when you first showed it. And obviously, that's what I believe in. I own RevOps.com. We are an integration tool for data across all the platforms. But what is interesting to me is like in the GTM space generally, and I want to get deeper into what you guys do because I'm extremely interested in the content you guys put out. I think it's fantastic on the LinkedIn ads and that kind of stuff. So we're going to go there in a minute. But I think as you and I both agree, it's like if you don't have the data, you can't make good decisions, right? But there's so many GTM experts, air quote experts, engineers. Everybody's a GTM engineer nowadays. I saw a post on LinkedIn how like everybody and their brother coming out of college is like, what do I do? Well, I don't know what to do. I want to get into kind of sales and marketing. I'll be a GTM engineer. And it's just kind of like this cliche like title. And I think it waters down like what that actually means because I can say that I've worked with many great data engineers, and a data engineer it's like a whole deep discipline that is, you have to know Python and SQL and R if you're going to get any data science done. You're actually a full stack, or not a full stack, at least a back-end developer. And people then just slap in data engineer or GTM engineer, and it's like, it's usually just a guy with like, N8N and maybe some zaps, and he throws up a lovable dashboard and he calls it a day. So I'm very interested about this gets into the human psychology of like where we are in the market for GTM and B2B list building and B2B go-to-market, because we're where inbound was in 2007, 2008. It's like where it's like just becoming sexy. It's where HubSpot kind of just all of a sudden blew up into this big company. And everyone was like, inbound, man, like funnels, click funnels, and how do you get more leads? And now B2B is sexy. And therefore, like everyone's coming in, but then it creates this kind of weird vacuum of old practices, old standards from the old world are not being adopted into this new world, even though they're still good. And so, for example, like central database platform, central client database platform, it's called a CDP. It's a very specific type of technology that's been around marketing for 20 years at this point. But if you ask the standard GTM engineer or RevOps person or anybody for that matter in the GTM space, what is a CDP? They're going to look at you like you're cross-eyed. And so it's just fascinating to me that it's like data management, data analytics, multivariate testing, A/B testing, all that kind of stuff is kind of like a secondary thought to most people in our space. And I'm curious, like, do you think it's because the space is so new for a lot of folks? Where do you think that comes from? It's kind of a vibe. It's like an overall ethos in the agency space.
Well, I don't know I don't talk to a lot of competitors or people in the agency space. I'm talking to a lot of the prospects that are trying to like figure this stuff out, or clients that are trying to figure this stuff out. And I can like talk through our like philosophy here and like what I see people go wrong a lot of times. But I think that like the big thing that I see like from the prospect side is that everyone wants to treat LinkedIn like it's paid search, or they want to treat it like it's one of these other channels, and it's really not. Like we post quite a bit of content, and like we're biased too because we post content on LinkedIn. We run LinkedIn ads, so like okay, of course you guys think LinkedIn is the kind of best platform, but when I came over and started taking over our GTM, which I'm not going to claim that I'm an expert at all, I actually find that there's value in that. My actual headline says I know a little about LinkedIn ads. Granted,
That's
I've been
awesome.
doing it for 6 years. Yeah, I'm like, I don't know anything. And then when I start talking, they're like, oh, okay, this guy does know a little. And I'm like, that's what it says. I know a little. But people treat it like it's this like genie that they're going to like rub a lamp and just get stuff that comes out of it. We've had like a fundamental shift, and it's not really in, you talk about like how people have done things before. And like what I see is like people kind of take things that like were being done before and they like name them something else like now, and they call it this new thing. And it's not really a new thing. Like human beings are the same. Like we can argue about how long human beings have been on this earth before, but there's the, I don't know, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you know what I'm talking about? Where, so you have some of these things like, so like the drives and like motivations for people are the same. Like it's the same. The medium is different. The way people consume content is different, but it's still the same thing. So that really hasn't changed. So I say that because I'm going to drop something as like novel or new, but it's not really. It's just taking what like we've seen work before, calling it something different, but there's some like intentionality here. So like there's a lot of argument about the traditional funnel, and I don't know how you feel about this. I don't know how your listeners feel about this, but it's kind of like a trigger word for some people. If you say, you know, we got to follow the funnel, like tofu, mofu, bofu. Yes, B2B prospects don't go through the funnel the way you want them to. They go here, they go there, they do whatever the heck they want to do. But like from our perspective, for LinkedIn, for a lot of people that are thinking of advertising, and I don't know if you're doing this or for other people that are thinking about doing this, like one of the first things you're trying to do is you're trying to validate the channel. Like, is this the right channel for me to actually spend my time? And if you're like a SaaS brand or you have limited resources, you're not funded, you don't have a bunch of money, like you really need to be smart about where you're spending your money and what you're testing and like where you're spending your time. You can't be everywhere. You can't be everything to everyone. You can't be on all platforms. You just like, you really can't. And even if you do, you're not able to do it well. You're not able to get enough data back that's actually statistically significant. So like you're trying to validate the channel. You're trying to validate the audience. Whoever you suspect that it's going to be. Like if you're running paid ads, you need to validate it and see if you can actually get impression share, if you can actually get engagement, if your messaging is resonating with them. I'm saying all of these things because like these are all the precursors or things that have to happen before you even think about generating any type of like pipeline or revenue. And I feel like there's been like a big push for like this demand gen, like what's his name, Chris Walker, you know what I'm talking about?
Sounds familiar.
Chris Walker, he did this like demand gen podcast. He was part of a company called oh god, what was it called? They were something, it's not revenue something. I can't remember his name. He's everywhere. Like I see him on my feed all the time. But he had this demand gen podcast and like it literally shifted the market. Everybody went from like MQLs, lead gen forums to like no, you know, that doesn't matter as much. It's about content consumption. It's like zero click content. And it kind of like shifted the market towards like this demand gen kind of approach. But like it changed a lot of people's mindsets to this, which is beneficial for us because this is kind of what we have been talking about. My point with all this is that before you even get to the point of being able to generate leads, generate any traction with LinkedIn, you have to go through these steps of validating the channel, validating the audience, validating kind of your messaging.
You're perfectly in the right place. The importance of data, and you perfectly set up this need to, data is important, but also validating channel fit is perfect, it is important. But also to do that, you need to start to do activities on the demand gen side, validating the content, the offer, all that kind of stuff, which then generates data. And then you
Yes.
have to be able to then push that somewhere to then say, does it ultimately generate
Yes.
revenue? But at some point of the funnel, there's different points of data that matter. And I think you're getting to this is, I think, ultimately where you're going, which is like, data is only important if you understand the strategy as to why you are collecting the data in the first place.
Yes.
Which is like, okay, obviously, if there is, like you said, top of funnel, middle funnel, bottom funnel, I know because of your content, there's a lot of nuance in that, right? And
Yes.
well, what does it mean to be at top of funnel? In our own business, we have top of funnel, but then there's top of funnel, there's top of middle of funnel, and there's bottom of top of funnel. So it's like, I might have screwed that up, but it's basically top, middle, and bottom of the top of funnel. So everyone's going to have different words, but fundamentally there is a series of actions that occur for the buyer across the entire buying journey that can be measured to some degree, not always, but they can be attributed in some way, not always. And the question is, well, what is worth tracking? What is meaningful? What do we actually care about to then make decisions? So I think that's kind of where you're going. And I think it's interesting because you said there's this transition away from like more of this like kind of waterfall style, like top, middle, and bottom, to more of the, like, hey, we have to do demand gen. And what is demand generation? Like you hear that word of like, there's demand gen, there's demand capture. And the way I've heard it or had it explained to me is demand gen is where you are producing essentially content marketing. You're doing a lot of content, videos, ads, creatives, infographics, to essentially educate the market. And this gets back to old school copywriting.
Yeah.
I say it 1,000 times, but Breakthrough Advertising by Eugene Schwartz. If you don't own that book, please everyone go buy it because it is the best copywriting book on planet Earth. And I talk about the awareness scale quite often: unaware, problem aware, solution aware, brand aware, product aware. And fundamentally, all marketing is the method of taking people through that buying journey and through that awareness scale. And oftentimes, because we're human beings and we communicate, we have to use images and words and signals and symbols to do that. And that comes out in the form of video and infographics, etc. But the question is like, if that's all true, strategically speaking, how do you then tactically do it? And I think what you guys solve, if I understand it correctly, is you help people take their message, their offer, and then build demand through education, through content, organic, founder-led content that you then track with analytics and pixels. And then you push that data to other parts of retargeting ads and different other pieces of content, landing pages, etc., to then be ultimately able to move them through the funnel. Did I say that right?
Yeah. I'm going to just like come up with phrases, and maybe they sound like these are phrases that I say all the time, but they're not. I'm actually saying them for the first time right now, but
Cool.
Hopefully they make sense. So there are these like points of activation these points of activation are points of validation. And you're looking at the right metrics that are going to tell you whether or not you're heading down the right path. And that's really it. It's like I'm problem solving for like, I'm on like a manufacturing line, and like I have raw materials here, and then all the way down here, I have like a refined product. And on this manufacturing line, there are key points along the way that are going to tell me whether or not I'm getting the output that I actually want. So like starting from the very top, it's like channel validation. A lot of people like think LinkedIn is the right channel because like I can target my people on there. Well, it doesn't actually mean that your audience is active on there. So I just did an audit earlier today for this cloud company. So what they do is they help people with their cloud architecture, AWS. It's like, there's a bunch of companies that do this. But they're targeting initially a CFO audience and a CTO audience for this target account list that they have. Well, over the last 90 days, they spent about $1,000 on each of them just trying to saturate them with content. For that CFO audience, it was a 19,000 person audience. They were able to saturate that audience by about 20%. So they got around, 3,800 people from that particular audience that they were able to hit over that 90-day period. For the CTO audience, which was CTO and DevOps, that audience size is only 10,000 people, but they were able to get 48% saturation for that audience. So they were all able to almost hit 5,000 people for the same amount of money, targeting that CTO DevOps audience. So what does that tell us? Well, from a channel audience perspective, it tells us that the CTO DevOps people are actually active on the platform, and that for that CFO audience, we could spend more money, or we could try to optimize that to see if we can increase the amount of saturation. But it's probably very likely that we're not going to be able to hit that CFO audience as much on the platform, and we'll need to look at other channels to help increase the reach if that's the audience that we actually want to go after. So this is the initial point of validation. It is channel and out audience validation. Is this particular channel the right channel for me to be able to reach this audience? That's the first thing we're trying to figure out. And the things that tell you that are audience penetration, average frequency, the number of impressions that are delivered. If you're using an account list, how much of that account list can I actually hit? If I have 5,000 companies in this list and I run this over a 90-day period and I can only reach 500 of those companies, well, the other 4,500 companies I'm not hitting here. I either need to use a different account list, or if these accounts are the only ones in my universe, I need to look at other means to help engage these particular accounts. But that's the first thing you're trying to do, is trying to get that validation for that audience for the channel. I'll run through these and maybe we could linger on this a little bit, but if that's the initial point, after that, I'm trying to validate the offer for that particular audience. So for the CFO audience, it was a document ad that was talking about AWS's changes to their the way they're doing their billing. Now, if you're a CFO, what's your job? Your job is to manage the company's revenue, and people hate getting the rug pulled out from under them. So this is like a really painful thing. It's like, hey, you're getting the wool pulled over your eyes, Mr. CFO, Mrs. CFO. They're charging you way more. That was kind of the hook. For the CTO, it was a little bit different because the use case is going to be different from them. But the next thing is like, what does the actual engagement look like? What is the messaging that is going to resonate, that's going to get them to take some type of action that's going to show them? So it's this kind of like audience offer validation point. When you go further down, kind of below that, you talk about these different signals that you're getting. You mentioned a few of them. There's other signals outside of that we could talk a little bit about that we're starting to dig into that are like, all right, let's say B2B sexy, make it sexy, but they're really interesting because they're not things that are currently being captured. And if you're looking for intent data or you're looking for signals, these are things that exist in your current ecosystem that just most people aren't thinking to track because it's either not obvious to track them or they don't know that you can track them. But then taking these different signals and then parsing out the data at that point and determining what the activation plan is going to be. And then this is the last kind of point of validation. It's like, okay, I have my top, middle, bottom of funnel. I'm getting the engagement. I'm kind of moving people down through my funnel, right? Marketing is not going to work in a silo. I can't just run LinkedIn ads and, hope that it's just going to work all by itself. It's going to work best if I layer it with different things. So based on the data that I have kind of at the bottom of this output, what is now the activation plan? Am I going to just let people go and convert on their own? Or am I able to get enough data that I can tee up information to the sales team or the leadership team to help engage people based on the different kind of buckets they fall into? And what do those actual plans look like? What does the activation of those audiences look like? And how do we validate that? But that's kind of like beginning to end. That's kind of the chain of this manufacturing line that, like, at least for ourselves, we've seen work really well. And I think for us positions us in like a different way from others, which we've had to do, like, one, out of necessity, because competition starts to creep up. And, if you don't start to innovate, like, you're just going to get left behind. Like, doesn't matter how many followers we have on LinkedIn.
So I want to dig into a couple things. And I think to help people think through this, I think less abstractly, we could actually use a real life example. So I want to get into that in a second. But I think you touched upon a really important point at the front end, which is like channel validation and what that actually means. And I think one of the criteria of validation, which I assume we mean by validation, we're saying, is the channel a good place for us to do any level of marketing, allocating ad dollars, time, energy, effort to even go after in the first place? Because as much as, like, we all love to just commiserate on LinkedIn, I think that we're there for a reason. We're there to generate an outcome and a result, which generally speaking is revenue. So from a validation perspective, though, there's a part of it which is there enough of your market even on the channel or in the platform, right? So that's like one component of validation. And I think that's important because oftentimes, and this is actually a very common mistake for our clients at our own agency, which is like, people don't realize that there are limits to TAM. to total addressable market.
Yep.
And people don't even consider that, okay, even if there was, say, 100,000 of a certain title out in the world, call them CFOs, for example, in B2B SaaS companies, over, say, $1 million in revenue. You could get as specific as you want. But the more granular you get, the smaller the market, right? And that's just assuming that they exist. But then the question is, well, are they on channel? And so then you get into the serviceable side. But even if they're like on channel, for example, we'll use cold email aside from LinkedIn for a second. There might be, you could have 100,000 emails for CFOs. But let's pretend, for example, that, I don't know, only 80% are verifiable. And so then your cold email sender, maybe it's your agency, maybe it's somebody at your team, they don't want to actually send to the 20% unverifiable because the bounce rate might skyrocket above 2%. And then that's going to hurt your infrastructure, which costs $5,000 a month. And so you don't want to take the risk. So you purposely decide to carve off 20% of your market. So now you're left with like 80,000 people. But then you find out, okay, we're actually targeting CFOs. And the reality is that we can only find most of the data is on Google. But the problem is that most CFOs are on Outlook inboxes. So now you've just carved off another big piece of it. And et cetera, et cetera. So I could go deeper, but the point is on just the list building side is like, from an email perspective, it's like you end up with a small subset of the actual total addressable market. And then people have these crazy expectations of like, well, we need, I don't know, 50 meetings per month or 50 meetings per week. And well, I say within your TAM, based upon the conversion rates that are possible over this time period, that's impossible. It literally can't be done. And so it's a good point because like on LinkedIn ads, it's the same idea ultimately, which is like you might have in the actual list pool 10,000 people or 20,000 people that are showing in the data. And you're like, okay, let's go hit 20,000 people. But they haven't logged in, in 3 years. And so it's like, it's never actually being delivered because the impressions aren't there to get. And this very kind of basic, obvious thing isn't something that people think of. And I'm sure you've experienced this, where then they blame the agency for a lack of reach. And it's not the agency's fault. It's just a matter of fact that they're dealing in a world in which people don't show up to the dance. So I think that's a very interesting point. My question, I guess, like to make this more realistic, I'd like to use an example of my company, RevOps. So I'm thinking of doing LinkedIn ads right now. Okay. Generally speaking, I do cold email, cold LinkedIn, cold calling, very sales led, and then those two channels of email and LinkedIn. But I want to add in LinkedIn ads. How would I think about that? Knowing that I'm also the founder, I'm doing founder-led content right now. So every day I do 1 or 2 posts on LinkedIn. I hired a creative designer who helps me come up with copy, and we have our whole content pillars on the content, and we post, and we get some that do all right. The LinkedIn algorithm has sucked recently, at least as I said, as in August 2025. But I know that one of your big things is to produce organic content to then retarget when something does well. So I'm curious, if you were advising me as an early stage SaaS founder who was producing their own organic content and was about to jump into ads, what would be the first step I would take? What would I want to consider?
So there's a few things you want to do in parallel before you take any action. So technical things. Number 1, make sure the LinkedIn Insights tag is installed on your website. Make sure you have a matched audience that is created and it is connected to a paused campaign so that it doesn't archive. Data is your friend. And if you're posting organic content and you're getting good reach, chances are people are visiting your personal profile. Chances are they're checking out your company page. And chances are they're maybe even hopping over to Google and going over to your website, or if you include URLs in your posts or as part of the first comment, whatever that is, you're generating traffic right now. And if you don't have the Insights tag installed and you don't have the matched audience created and you don't have it connected to a paused campaign, then none of that data is being saved and you're basically just wasting opportunity. So that's number 1. Make sure that you have
let's
that.
Pause there. So you just said a bunch of Greek to most people who don't know what you're saying. So what is a Insights tag, and also what is a matched audience?
Yeah, so the Insights tag is basically LinkedIn's pixel. So think about like Facebook pixel, right? It's basically the little piece of code that you install into the global footer of your website. So if you're using like, Webflow or something, you can have your web developer do it, or LinkedIn has its instructions. But the step one, actually, yeah, you need to have a company page account on LinkedIn. If you don't have a company page account, it's easy to create one. You need a company page account and you need an ad account. You don't have to add a credit card or debit card number to it. You can leave it. It's going to have this annoying red bar at the top that's basically screaming at you saying, hey, add that card, but you don't necessarily need to add it. Inside of your ad account on the left-hand side of the screen, you're going to have a button that's listed audiences. Underneath that, you'll have, there'll be, sorry, it's not under audiences. There'll be, it depends on your UI, but there'll be an option on the left-hand side of the bar for your website. There's an insights tag that's on there. You can click on it and it will give you the code. You just need to make sure that that's installed onto your website. Once that's done and you have that installed onto your website, LinkedIn has a little button on there that will show you, hey, it's connected, it's not connected. So it'll let you know if something's going wrong there. Once that's done and you have that connected, on the left-hand side under audiences, you can create what's called a matched audience. And a matched audience is basically just any type of data that you're going to use for a campaign. So this can be LinkedIn's first-party data. This could be people that visit your company page. This could be people that visit your website, wherever the insights tag is installed. If you're using landing pages because you're doing paid search, or you have landing pages, you're doing cold email and you're sending people, you'll want to make sure that that tag is installed on those too, because if you're driving traffic there and those people are logged into LinkedIn on the same browser as they are visiting your site, you can capture that data, and those are people that you can retarget. But that matched audience just allows you to create different audiences for you. Anything that is LinkedIn's data, meaning if you run ad campaigns and people click on your ad, if you run video campaigns and people watch your video, if you run lead gen campaigns and people open your lead gen forms, if you have a company page and people visit your company page, all of that data is retroactive. You don't have to do anything with that today. You can go in a month from now, 2 months from now, 3 months from now, you can create that audience and it will retroactively pull that data up through 365 days. After that, the data is gone. And honestly, you wouldn't want it, because why retarget someone that visited your website like last year? They forgot about you. So don't worry about that. The website visitor audience is one of the only ones that is not retroactive and has to be created. And it only starts gathering data from the moment that it's created. Now, if you go and you do this and you take this step, which I recommend that you do, it will save that data for up to 30 days unless it's connected to a campaign. Now, I won't get into that part of it because there's way more steps that are involved, but you can just create a mock campaign, launch it, and then pause it. Just make sure that that matched audience is connected to it, and that should keep that should keep that audience alive longer than if you had just had it on its own.
So when you're launching this fake campaign, I assume you go into the ad builder, you build out the actual campaign, and when you say launch it, do you have to launch it, or can you just leave it paused and then associate the pixel with it?
If you leave it in draft status, it won't stay active as long as if it's what they connected to a pause campaign. So it depends on what you're going to do or when you're going to activate on this. Going back to the original question that you had, if you're posting this organic content, and you're thinking, I want to run LinkedIn ads, I've been doing these other activities, I want to run LinkedIn ads to help kind of enhance this, the best place to start is with those same audiences that you're already reaching out to. There's no need to have to go after some like pure cold audiences. If you're going to run email campaigns to people, it would be great to saturate those audiences first, because what you're looking for, if you're running this, is you're looking for an overall lift. You don't necessarily need direct channel attribution. Like, let's say you're generating right now 5 meetings per week from all of your kind of combined efforts. Yeah, it's higher sum, it's lower sum. Okay, great. I'm going to do this little LinkedIn ads test. I'm going to put, $2,000 a month behind it to try to just kind of like test it out. You run this for a little bit and your baseline average goes from 5 to 8 meetings per week. You don't necessarily need to have those all attributed back to LinkedIn. Your pipe to spend, right, has overall increased. So my recommendation for anybody that already is doing things on LinkedIn would not be to try to make LinkedIn ads kind of stand on its own. It would be, how do I enhance the efforts that I'm doing right now? If I'm going to reach out to people, and I know I'm going to send them email. I know I'm going to do this kind of cold LinkedIn. I'm doing organic content right now. The best thing I can do is leverage paid ads to guarantee distribution of the content that I want my ideal prospects to see. And how do you know what the ideal content is? Well, you need to go through the work of actually validating the relevance of the engagement that you're getting for your posts. Because anybody that does organic content on LinkedIn may be familiar with this concept of like reach and relevance. My like most viral post that I've done, which is like close to 1,000, which isn't super impressive, but for me, it's kind of cool. But is talking about how I got fired from Spectrum and has nothing to do. It's got me zero leads whatsoever, nothing. But it's gotten a lot of reach. Posts that get like my DMs, like they don't really get a ton of reactions, but it's like, it's really, really relevant. So you need to look at that. You want the posts that generate leads, or when you look at the demographics information of the post, they align closer with your ICP. So if you know you're more of the 11 to 50, you know, kind of like the persona of the person, you want to look at that data, not the vanity metrics of like, oh, I got 100,000 impressions from people that could never actually buy from me. Who cares? I don't want to spend money boosting that content. I want it based on the ones that were actually generating leads or that are more relevant. And I want to run that content to the people that I've already reached out to. So you can parse out the list that you have. You're running email campaigns. You have people that have opened your email campaigns, your emails 3 times. I probably want to push those into a higher intent layer. I want them to see more of my content. Maybe I'm running 2 campaigns to them, talking about different kind of pillars of content. And then these other ones that I'm going to, run emails to, I'm going to kind of warm them up so they're familiar. So when they see my name in their inbox, maybe they don't associate it with me directly because, they see me a few times, but there's some familiarity there. And I'm just looking for incremental increases in performance.
It's funny you said the reach versus relevance, because there was actually this guy, I can't remember his name. He's an Instantly expert, and Lead Gen J. Are you familiar with Lead Gen J?
No.
Okay, so he's this guy, he has this big school community, he's a lead gen expert. And on one of his YouTube videos, he was teaching people how to use Trigify. And if you guys don't know what Trigify is, it's just a intent gathering platform that specifically focuses on LinkedIn. So you can go find your top competitors and then basically track all of their LinkedIn posts and then capture all the LinkedIn likes and commenters, put them into a list, and then retarget them with ads or with email or whatever. And so he was doing this demo video on it, and it was hilarious because like he's like, well, let's look at the top engaged people in my niche for organic content on the lead gen category on LinkedIn. And he's like, I want them to be have the most, like, it was like the ratio of likes and shares and comments to followers or something like that. And so he pulls it up, and I was 3rd on the list overall, and I had the best rating overall in terms of engagement. But this is what nobody knows, and I'm going to tell you the true story. If you ever go watch that video, and then now you're seeing me, because I'm the guy on that video, that he actually goes and he's like, let's look at Ben Reed, and he goes in and dives into my content. I was doing lead gen posts, which were basically like $1 million blueprint, how to, like, basically it was like how to build a $1 million or $10 million company with a Notion document. It was a big lead gen giveaway, where essentially I say, comment and I'll give you this thing.
Yep.
So we figured out, this is like 6 months ago, we figured out the perfect little formula. And regularly I would go and I would get 2,000 comments, 3,000 comments, 1,000 likes on a post. And I had no business doing this, but I can tell you for a fact, I generated 0 revenue from that. 0. Like it was pure reach. And I was like, and I grew a 1,200 person school community in 3 weeks off of it. Like I was getting people into a community. I was getting leads, but they weren't my buyers. And so I even tried to monetize, and I tried to build a pro community on school off of it and charge $100 a month. They just were kind of all freebie seekers. That's all they wanted. And so what I actually sold, which was agency services, higher ticket stuff, my software, I wasn't attracting my ideal customer. And so I was doing all this vanity stuff. If you saw me from afar, it was like, this guy's killing it. What's he doing? I even did a whole post and tutorial on how to do what I was doing. But I would even just say it's not even worth doing what I was doing, because it wasn't actually generating, to your point, the engagement that I actually needed. And I have the same thing that we were talking about before. This podcast, at this current time that I'm saying this, is generating 200 to 400 views per video, something in that range. But I've generated hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue from a small group of people because people that watch this podcast care about sales and marketing in the B2B world. So it's so important that people get that point, because it's like, who cares about vanity metrics and reach, you know?
Yeah.
So I guess for you though, so getting back to now, again, I'm doing this, I'm the founder. I have, let's say, a set of posts. How would you analyze, knowing what I just told you? I have these viral posts and I have these more relevant targeted posts for my ICP that get much lower in relevancy, or not relevancy, reach, but maybe have better engagement, or maybe they don't. I mean, how would you define that? Do you have a formula for that? Like, what are you looking for to choose the right organic post?
Yeah. I wish I had a better answer for you, but the real answer is some of it's data and some of it's just intuition. And you're going to have to balance, that a bit. If it's glaringly obvious, it's like, look at the comments or reactions on this and it's following the right people. But then the challenge to that is like most of the buyers are actually lurkers. Like they don't ever engage. Like, for us, like I'll talk to somebody and they're like, yeah, we've been following you guys for 6 months. I've been seeing your content, for the last few months. I'm like, I don't know who the hell you are. Like, I've never seen your name once. Like, throw me a like, buddy, something, share. But like most of them are lurkers. So it's hard. It's hard to look at the direct engagement on there, because even if you post a lot of time, then you like, not intentionally, but you tend to fall kind of like sometimes in these little pods, and you'll have like people, the same kind of people that are engaging, with you. So it's not really like a true to kind of tell. And then the other part to this is then even if you look at the analytics, it's a bit obscure. So like you can get different categories, but you can't overlap them to say, well, did this get this company size and this job title and this industry and in this location? It doesn't do that. It's all kind of separate columns. So unless you're like religiously documenting, I did this post, and then immediately after that, someone mentioned it in a DM and told me about it. Unless you're documenting that, then you're going to have limited data to go off of, and you're going to have to go based off of a little bit of intuition. And then you can test it. But the good thing with all leadership ads and this approach is you don't really need a whole bunch of money to do this. Like you can just put a couple $100 behind this stuff. And then the good part about this is that you're not relying on LinkedIn's algorithm, which you are saying as of August 2025 sucks for the good organic content creators. They changed something, but you're not relying on LinkedIn's algorithm to guarantee distribution to your ICP. You can direct it yourself. And I want this audience, this contact list that, I enrich with Apollo or Clay or whatever, we're running email campaigns to them, or I'm going to use an account list and then I'm going to target the relevant job titles at these particular companies, but I want to target people inside their circle of influence because, they talk to each other, and these could be other, points of entry for me into the organization, like whatever that looks like. Like I want to saturate them, and then voila, you're going to get data, because the data that LinkedIn ads gives you isn't just the like clicks and like engagement. Like you'll be able to see other actions, which other actions mean if it's like a truncated post, I can click it. I can see how many people actually clicked to open it up. And then I can also see dwell time. Like how long were they reading? Like on average, this particular piece of content. Did I have people click to go to my profile from the actual ad? And with like the thought leadership content, it's kind of being like overplayed right now. It's like there's still not enough people doing it, but then there's a lot of people that are also doing it. So, but then this is inside my little vacuum. So people that are hearing this right now might be like, well, what's thought leadership content? That sounds interesting.
Right.
Well, yes, like you can take the content that you're posting and then you can boost this, and it looks and feels very organic in the feed. If you're not paying attention, and this has happened to me, like I run LinkedIn ads all the time. I know this platform. I'll be reading a post and I think it's really interesting. And then I'll look and see it's like, oh, promoted by like whatever company. And like I clicked and I engaged and I was reading on it. Or maybe I even see that it is promoted, but it's actually touching on something that I think is really interesting and it has a lot of engagement on it. So I'm like, I'm going to check this thing out and see what this is.
So let's go deeper on the on that. So again, I'm using me as an example because I think there's a lot of people like me. I think there's actually probably more people like me as than say like your big box company who's like, I want to run LinkedIn ads. It's probably like a entrepreneur, a founder, somebody who's, doing between, a million and say 10 million a year, and they're trying to scale up, right?
Yeah.
I'm kind of creating a little niche here. Or they're just getting started, to your point, and maybe they don't have enough of a budget. A thing I hear a lot is like, oh, LinkedIn's expensive. Meta is so much cheaper, or cold email is cheaper. Actually, like, not to burst anyone's bubble, but I think actually media buying can be more cost effective than cold email when you consider all infrastructure costs, and there's a bunch to talk about there. But I'm curious on your take on like, what do you think a minimum budget is? So again, a founder like me, somebody who's just starting LinkedIn ads, and let's say he does have some organic content like I do, and he's like, okay, I hear you, JD, I'm going to choose these top 5 posts. First off, how many posts does he choose? That's 1.
5.
And then 2, 5. Okay. So 5 posts, and you're putting that into, obviously a campaign. And how much budget are you allocating per day? How much time do you need? Can you give some details on that?
Yeah. Yep. It goes back to the age-old answer that we probably all say in every single industry. It depends. So what are you trying to do? That's the question. It's like, so first off, LinkedIn is expensive. I'm like, compared to what? Like, what are we measuring? Mm-hmm. Like, we're talking about clicks. Okay. CPM. Okay. Are we talking about revenue? Because like I can go get super cheap leads on Meta that never turn into anything. So if we talk about like, what is my cost per high fit opportunity? Yeah, LinkedIn's actually pretty good now, looking pretty good. Exactly. So, but in terms of like the budget, this is like the biggest question that people ask is like, how much do I need to spend? What should I spend? I say it's like our second most asked question. And it really just depends on kind of where you're at and what you're trying to do. The first thing I would say is like, if you don't have anything and you're starting off, you have 0 baselines right now. You have nothing to go off of. If you ask somebody, what is it going to cost me for a lead? Like, unless that person has a crystal ball, like there's no way anybody can tell you. Even if they've run, ads for other people before, everybody is different. Like we even have clients, like we have, I don't know, like 170 something clients. And we have clients that are in the same vertical that have very different results. Like it's just, there's not a way to really know for sure. So what I would say, like I tend to take a conservative approach. I don't like throwing a whole bunch of money at the platform. And I'd say like, if you're in a desperate situation like that, we're like, hey, my business really needs to thrive. I really think LinkedIn, like, let's go all in. I'm like, don't do it. Just don't do it. Like, it's not a good place to be, desperation. So
I would say for anybody listening, if you're in desperation mode, just start cold calling, man. Like it's the best bang for the buck, and it's the lowest cost if you can be good on the phone. So that's your cheapest option.
And if you're not good, you'll get good, pretty quick.
Not to mention on cold calling, you can validate. So like if you don't know your messaging, you're not clear on your hooks and your offers, just go make like several thousand cold calls. You're going to have, 5% to 20% connect rate, depending upon what data you're using, and you'll have some conversations. Record them all on Fathom or your dialer system, whatever you're using. Load all the transcripts into ChatGPT, find out the keywords of the responses, and then you'll have some interesting like organic content and some paid ads. So I personally think like if you're a founder and you have no freaking clue, direct message, not automated LinkedIn DMs and cold calling is your bread and butter. Yeah. But then you can add ads. Okay, so I digress. So keep going. So then what happens?
You're giving me ideas here for like a new service line. It's like, hey, we can validate this before you actually spend money on it. So
100%. And by the way, in my community, we have something called the Mom Test, which is not my book, but it's a free PDF, and I have a whole like 5-step training on like how to even validate an offer. And my answer is always go find 20 to 50 people. Mom test them. There's a whole very specific survey, so you're not biasing your offer. Record it, take the transcript, ChatGPT it, come up with your keywords, and then run with it. I mean, I think that's like anybody who's less than $10,000 in revenue, that is your playbook, period. And go do that, and it's going to take you 6 months. And your goal is to come up with what I call the top 6 challenges, which is what are the top 6 challenges your buyer is aware of and finds to be the most painful? What are your top 6 solutions? Not your product, your solutions, and your product better match those solutions. And then you go and you have that. It's called the top 6 challenge PDF. That is your website. You don't need anything else in the beginning. You share that with people in LinkedIn DMs and you say, hey, this is the top 6 challenges I solved for X ICP. I just want to know if you agree with them and I'd love to chat with you. And if you did it right, and at first people are gonna be like, no, 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 but you're gonna calibrate, you're gonna find your challenges and solutions, and people start to say, how did you know? You know it better than I do. It's because you talk to everybody. And so once you have that, then you can put together a nice website, some initial content, maybe a real brochure, and then you can start to actually build a nice product. So I just think that like that whole discovery process is something that like 90% of marketers miss. The output of the challenges thing is you then get early adopters, especially if you're software. You run a beta test, you get 10 to 20 clients, and your goal is 5 case studies. Until you get 5 case studies, you are not in business. So for me at RevOps, we just did this. I literally just did this. It's how I got my first 30 clients. It's how I got my first $10,000 per month in MRR. And so now we have our first case studies and we're ready to actually do some ads and start to promote some more. But it takes you 6 to 8 months to do all that. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like a short-term thing.
Yeah. That's, separately, I'm going to have to ask you to share some of this. So we're like, and not to go too far off on a tangent, but we're trying to diversify a little bit. So we grew pretty quickly. We made some acquisitions. We scaled up our ads. We're shifting our market now. So a lot of how we grew was we started off smaller. It was like a lot of the yes train, and we have clients that have stuck around with us for a long time. As we've added like overhead to this, like those started to be unprofitable for us. And the goal was to have a loss leader where we would come in, bring our clients in, and we would grow them on the back end. There was a bit of a mismatch with the type of businesses that we were bringing in. So now we're going through the very painful process of shifting our ICP and going through this exact kind of like offer audience validation, like for ourselves. But part of that too is in parallel to this is having an outbound motion running like side by side to it, in addition to like kind of the signal based activation that we're doing. So like we take all of our intent signals, we look at the in-channel platform metrics. So what is my paid engagement looks like? What does my organic engagement look like? LinkedIn will actually give you this stuff. If you're doing a target account list, you can load this list in. This was my point earlier about if I'm you and you're starting to get in, like I want as much data as possible, not like fluffy data, like actual data, like real data. What are the data points I want to look at? Well, within LinkedIn, I want to see what my penetration looks like with the audience. I want to look at my ad frequency. I want to look at the engagement, but I want to look at the other things too. I want to look at how much of my account list am I actually getting in front of. I also want to look at my website visitors. So there's tools like, we have a tool called Demand Sense. There's like RB2B, there's Clearbit, there's a bunch of these other tools. But if I'm running a target account list and then I see that people from those companies are visiting my website, I should probably combine those data points together. And then that's someone that I would consider an actual warmer audience. If you add on top of that, the personal account details. So if you're running organic content right now and you have people that are engaging with your content, or you have people that are following you, or you have people that are visiting your profile and you're able to identify them, if you're able to connect all of these different data points together, you get a better picture of kind of this heat map of people that are like more warmer to you that you would want to prioritize for your outreach efforts. So if I know
would be the, sorry, go ahead. I got excited.
Go for
You're
it.
getting me excited.
Go.
Well, I said, what would be the perfect piece of software? It is, you have all these intent signals, right? You have, okay, they just visited my profile from, the Pixel, and then they also commented on a competitor post on a similar subject, Trigify, and they also visited a website, RB2B, and maybe they even opted into some blog post or something through ClickFunnels that then ended up in the CRM, and you got all these little sprinkled things that have happened. The perfect world, the perfect piece of software that somebody should build is taking all of that intent signals and putting it into a single contact record. But here's the big thing. So you see all the stream of data in the same contact record, but then you can also create triggers off of any combination of those things based upon the marketer's discretion. So if X, Y, and Z and B and D happen, therefore fire a new webhook off to do something else. Just trigger a workflow in another system. The good news is that's exactly what RevOps does.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's what we do.
He's going somewhere with this.
Yeah, that's what we do. So because it's obvious. I mean, what you're describing is like the fact that there isn't actually like good software out there that does that with, this is the big idea that I think everyone's missing right now. Everybody and their brother's building a signal-based platform that gathers intent data, and they're the owner of the intent signal data. And I think that's wrong. I think that there's going to be, especially in the new age of building tools, is that signal-based data is going to have many different providers of that data, many different providers. And no one's going to have it perfectly done. And so I think the critical thing is identify the really good vendors of signal-based data, because everyone will have their own flavor, but then be able to aggregate that into one place to then be able to then do things with it, to make decisions as a marketer. And so we see like tools like Unify and Common Room, and they're over-engineered. That's my big
Common
take.
Room is crazy with the number of signals that I saw one of them on there. Maybe you know what this is, rage clicks. I have no idea what that was, but
I know it's rage clicks is like when you're in a certain part of an app or a software where you see somebody like click a bunch, and it just means that they're frustrated with a piece of the software. It's typically used in like heat mapping software like Hotjar. You can do it in Mixpanel too if you have certain pixels included, but Hotjar is a good example. But they're doing a good job. I'm not saying they're not. The problem is that one, it's really expensive. Two is they have to be God. They have to know all the signals. Now they'll say, well, we do also connect to our B2B and to these other things. And I'm like, fine. But my belief is like, it's really simpler than that. It's like, give me a contact profile, give me a company they're associated with, and just show me all the signals that happen from that, and let the marketer be the engine that says, I want these things to be true. When you see those things happen, create a smart view of those things within a day range, because we care about windows, 90 days, 30 days, 60 days, and then do something with it. Now, maybe it's as simple as just give me the list, or maybe it actually fires a webhook off to, I don't know, add those people to a new LinkedIn campaign, or maybe add them into the CRM. So for me, when we built RevOps, I was like, everything is so over-engineered. I'm like, I just need the most basic signal capture, contextualized to the individual, and then push it off. Anyways, so sorry, you got me excited there because.
Well, no, I'm excited. Like that's the activation piece. And maybe you could talk a little bit about this, or we could talk a little bit about this. The activation piece of because like there's all these different paths. So when a while ago, like a year ago, we were going through this exercise where we were trying to build out like this like strategic framework. So like if this, then that, and maybe it's the same for you, but like we have like probably the same like dozen or so clients. They're just like different faces, different names, different companies, but like it's the same like dozen or so scenarios that we run across. But the different paths that things can go based on the data, it's wildly different. Now there are some like tried and true paths, at least that work as like a starting point, and then we maybe need to kind of pivot. But like the number of branches it can go is kind of like overwhelming. So like a year ago, we tried to go through this exercise of like building out like, well, what are the different paths we can grow? What does the kind of growth plan like look like for people? And it just became like extremely overwhelming. So fast forward to this conversation right now, we were talking about the different activation paths. Are you thinking about this like in terms of like the marketer's control? Are you thinking about this as being some type of like AI kind of driven activation path for them, kind of based on triggers? Because I'm just thinking about this from like a practical standpoint. And if we have like these different signals that we're tracking at different kind of stages, maybe some of them are going to fall into some of these like kind of key ones, but there's like so many different branches that it can go. And it seems like it would be overwhelming for a person or even a team to try to map all of those out and then test, what the response is to that.
So there's a deep answer here. And I know we only have 9 minutes left because I unfortunately have a back-to-back podcast, which is the first time I've ever done that. I don't know how that happened. But the answer is that I have a contrarian take on AI. And it's because I've built several software companies on AI before AI was cool. We had one company that did computer vision, which is basically using computer software to look at images, look at videos, and then detect changes within the video and then do analysis of that. So we had this crazy piece of software in 2016 where we would look at satellite imagery analysis and look at object detection on the ground for frac pits, which is like basically bodies of water in West Texas. And then also with pads for drilling. So in the oil and gas industry, they have these squares of caliche, which is like basically white rock. And from aerial views, you can view the satellite imagery and you can see it. It's very clear. It's like kind of very good contrast from the normal desert brush in West Texas and the white caliche. So we had a bunch of essentially like geology students, GIS students, and we had them go and use our own software we built to geofence and map all these different little objects. But we had to train the data. You had to have at least 50,000 of these objects circled and trained. You feed that to the AI, and then it starts to learn, and then it can start to predict with a certain level of regularity and predictability what is or is not a pad, or versus like, I don't know, some random dried up pond, for example. So my point is like I actually had to build out models like that. We had to hire the data scientists, we had to hire the data engineers to pipe in the data to collect this information. And what it taught me was that everybody's take on AI right now is so overblown in terms of like what it's actually capable of in the current moment, because it's not actually a processing problem. It's like intelligence. Like, what is intelligence? It's the ability to process information quickly and accurately. But intelligence is nothing without data. And that's why, for me, what actually matters is context and access to the information. You can have the most brilliant mind on planet Earth, but if you lock them in the cave and you then ask them a question, they will have no answers for you.
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing with data, which is you got to solve your data management problem first, which means piping the data into a common schema with a good domain model, which is a fancy word for saying the way the database is architected and the way these different data objects, like in the CRM world, you had, companies, which sometimes are called leads if you're in a certain CRM. And then you have opportunities, which are sometimes called deals. And then you have activities, but those activities are related to the contact and the company. Anyways, I could go on. My point is you have to think about like, what is your actual architecture? One. Two, you have to then think about how do I get the data in? But getting the data in isn't an easy problem. We had a company called Subsurface.io in the oil and gas industry. It was a central data platform between all the major operators, so Shell, Chevron, et cetera. And they had a fundamental problem because they were working on a standard called PPDM, which you don't have to know what that means, other than that they had a common way of agreeing on what terms were. Now, it turns out the most difficult challenge in data migration and data collection is actually just agreeing on what things mean. Because if you have something in RB2B or something in LinkedIn and then something over at Trigify, you actually have to what they call normalize the data into a common, what they call semantic layer, which is the way we talk about words of meaning. Like cat over here and cats over here actually mean cat, right? It's the most basic kind of idea. But when you don't know those things and you're like, I'm going to do some AI analysis. Well, if you just leave that to whatever untrained AI like ChatGPT, and then you're like, I have an MCP, which is just a way to say, hey, you have a way to access an agent, an AI agent into your data base. Yeah, it allows the agent to talk to your data. If you have an untrained agent, untrained AI, and you don't have good naming conventions, and you're just like, just whatever you think it is, you're going to get some weird ass analysis. And everyone thinks that it's just like, oh, RevOps is dead in a year. I got a lovable dashboard. It's going to fix everything. Some idiot said this the other day on LinkedIn. And I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I try not to be too direct with people because people have, very fragile egos. But AI is so overblown at the moment. And I'm not saying it won't get there. I'm just saying people don't understand the problem is not AI. It's data. And you have to
It's the same problem,
structure.
right? That's the same problem since before. Like I was gonna say, that's like, it's the same problem that was maybe like 10 years ago or 15 years ago. Like it's not like the fundamental problem hasn't changed.
Yeah, exactly. And people think just because we have smarter AI, therefore the problem's solved. And it's like, no, you still got to think about this. This gets back to the original point you made, which is like, who cares if you can get all the data in the world? It's like, what data do we need? In what format do we need it? And what are we trying to understand at that part of the funnel?
Yeah.
And it's like, if you don't have the most basic kind of thinking done, then it doesn't matter because you're going to collect the wrong data in the wrong format and you're not going to know how to analyze it anyways. So data analytics actually just starts with like business outcomes. What do you want to do? What do you want to measure? What are you trying to achieve? And then work back from that. And so anyways, I know we're running out of time, but like you asked, like you hit the nail on the head with what I think about every single day. We're gonna obviously have to do a V2 of this because I feel like there's some stones unturned. But yeah, man, it's been great to have you on. Where can people find you guys online?
Yeah, so impactable.com, or if you go LinkedIn, look up JD Garcia. I think I'm the first result, and I look just like this without a beard, or with a beard, actually, in my photo.
I always ask at the end, if you had to leave the world with one little piece of advice, doesn't have to be business, it could be business. What is that, like one little, like, I don't know, principle or idea that you would leave them with?
Nothing matters. Everyone's going to die. We're on a floating rock hurling through space. None of us know why this even exists. Nothing you're dealing with today is that big of a deal. Have fun.
I love it. After we just went like as deep as you can on fucking data analysis.
I mean, I'm about to drive home right now. Like, like whatever could happen. Like, I'm going to go outside. Like, the sun's shining. Like, what does this all actually even matter? Just, have a good day. Don't get all flustered with stuff. It's just life.
I feel like that's how we started the call. That was a perfect circle because like we started with like, what are we doing here? Why are we doing it?
Yeah.
And we went deep. But that's the fun thing about being human, is that we can hold two opposing ideas at the same time and really give a shit about something and then completely go, why the hell do I care about that?
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, Ben.
Yeah, thanks, man. Everyone, it was good to have you on here. Be on the next episode of Next Gen Sales Leaders Podcast. I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks.